We're moving quickly now into another interview, and Dr. Robin Osborne joins us on set from concept to completion in concrete. Good morning, Dr. Osborne. How are you?
Good morning, Emma. How are you?
I am good. I'm good. Tell us a little bit about the program.
The program is intended to bring a team approach in thought and in competence in the conceiving, planning, designing, executing, and then commissioning projects that accord on concrete as a material. Concrete is arguably the world's most used load-bearing material. It competes with asphalt, it competes with steel, with which it sometimes works in harmony, because the very building we are in has a concrete floor, but that floor could not stand without steel reinforcement. So we want to get architects, engineers, constructors, maintainers, operators at the senior level to understand that a team approach is critical for successful conceiving and carrying out of projects.
In terms of the structural integrity, and you having this, we are lacking a building code in Trinidad and Tobago.
We do have codes. How well they are obeyed is another story.
How is this going to impact in your ability to, one, ensure there's quality, quantity, and just the quality assurance issues in doing something like this?
Well, let me just look back a little bit at my experience. I've been called in to fix a lot of things which should not have gone wrong in the first place. So that if people put their heads together early in the game, we can often avoid the deficiencies that emerge in constructed projects. And so the idea is to get people to network, to think as a team, to work together, not like two sides of a political fence, but work together in terms of getting the best out of the projects we think are necessary to be built.
What are some of the topics that will be covered during the event?
We'll be looking at things like planning, because I have to start with the project, not just concrete. Planning the project, choosing the project. Is the project really necessary? What options are there in terms of how it may be designed? What options are there in terms of how we build the project? Do we use one method of construction or another? Where do we put the project? Las Alturas is a case in point where the taxpayer has paid a lot of money for projects sited at the wrong location. And then when the project is finished, how is it managed? How is it operated? But if this was not thought out at the beginning, the project will be difficult to build, it will be difficult to be used, it will be difficult to maintain. So all the thinkers that guide the project, specify it, design it, need to work with a mental network and a collaborative effect.
You know, a lot of times with construction projects, we always hear about behind budget, off budget, and late. Why are so many projects not being done or delivered on time?
The big problem is that lack of planning, lack of collaborative planning. I go in a corner and I do this, and then I say, I want you to build that I have designed.
So is it a project management team that's getting it wrong?
It's the project management team is the team that looks at executing the project itself. But there is a sense in which project management should begin from the time we think of the project, and we start project managing even the design process and the planning process. If we do not do that, we are going to run into trouble.
In terms of the stakeholders, what do you want them to leave with? What is the one thing that you hope to see change following this event?
No lone rangers. I don't want to say one thing because there are more than one. No lone rangers, because no one profession can do it alone. And then diligence and thoroughness, record keeping. These are some of the issues. Of course, the core of what I'll be talking about will have quite a bit to do with concrete, how you can misuse concrete. And one of the statements I have made is that most of the problems with concrete have nothing to do with concrete, but with concrete about which we are ignorant and which we abuse. And so if we knew what we were about, one, and worked together, two, those two key things would help a lot of the problems never to arise.
Now, in terms of modern technology and the cost factor of that, how far along are we to ensuring that we have first world building practices?
Let's take flat work, for example. A floor for a TV studio should generally, of course, with new cameras that can zoom so much, the demands are less. But the old floors had to be almost super flat. But you do, like the Court Super Warehouse as an example, you do have floors that need to be extremely level. and that floor was finished bringing in a foreign team. We are fully capable of doing that, but we have not disciplined ourselves, we have not acquired the equipment, we have not got the skills necessary to do these kinds of things. So in many respects, we are backward, and it's no reflection of our capability, but rather a reflection of our lack of planning and lack of training and lack of discipline.
Now, also in terms of the maintainability and maintenance. Maintenance is always an issue in Trinidad and Tobago. We look at all of the buildings. The Magnificent Seven is a classic example of things which are not properly maintained. Why is that always lacking in our plan?
Let me just say this, Trinidad and Tobago is not unique. I've taught maintenance throughout the Caribbean. It is a common weakness. We build a bridge and we never send anybody to inspect it. And so the bridge falls down because rainwater, after many years, corrodes a steel member and part of the bridge slumps. Maintenance requires a budget, it requires vision, but it also requires a discipline of record keeping and regular inspections by competent professionals who can assess, hey, this just needs scraping and painting, but that needs replacement. So the two things, even in politics, let me just say that as being a naughty boy, we want two things in any office. We want competence and we want integrity. And if our professionals are not sufficiently disciplined and not sufficiently competent, we are going to get we're not going to solve the problem.
10 seconds for closing comments. Speak to the stakeholders who should be present.
Watch your business, inform yourself as thoroughly as you can about your project, and as much as possible, work together.
We take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more for you. Stay with us. This is The Morning Brew.